Welcome to Worldwide Ministry of Kedoshim. My name is Rabbi Joseph Marquez, and we are talking today about the Messianic Seal, symbol of Messianism. This is Nazarene Messianic Judaism. Welcome to the Nazarene Messianic Judaism. You can follow our teachings in Torah and Messiah Yeshua, not God, in our page AnswersInTorah.com. What is the Messianic Seal? The Messianic Seal is the union of the Menorah and the fish representing Yeshua, used in times of the Nazarene or Ebionite groups between the 1st and 3rd century. You can see here two forms of the Messianic Seal. The most ancient representation of the Messianic Seal is the one on the right, and the one on the left is the most new form of the Messianic Seal of Jerusalem. The idea is that it's a combination of between the Menorah and the fish representing Yeshua. What is the history of the Messianic Seal? From an excerpt from July 1999 in Israel Today, the art says the artifacts were presented to Louis Schneider, editor-in-chief of Nei Israel magazine Today in 1990. They came from Tek Otekus, an elderly monk who lived as a hermit in the old city of Jerusalem. Otekus said that in the 1960s he had personally excavated about 40 artifacts bearing the Messianic Seal of an ancient grotto located in the vicinity in the upper room of Mount Zion. What was once the main entrance into the grotto is now completely covered with gel-like heavy wire mesh enclosure. According to Schneider, the last remaining entrance to the grotto was sealed shortly after he enthusiastically told the priests of the local monastery about the discovery of the Messianic Seal. Schneider photographed 8 artifacts that were given to him by Otekus and showed the photos to the curator of the Israel Museum. These are the photos that he gave them. The old Messianic Seal appears on each one of them. So he gave these ones to the curator of the Israel Museum to study if they were rightful, the ones that were really said by Otekus, according to Otekus. Which were the symbols of the New Testament? Remember, the first symbol was the fish. Why? Because Yeshua told his disciples that they were going to become fishers of men. So the first one that comes to mind is the fish, the representation of the fish that you see here. The second one, very popular, especially used in tombs in catacombs in Rome, is the Astis. This is a representation of the Greek idea of Jesus Christos Theo Huisos Soter. That means Yeshua, Messiah, Son of God, Savior. These were very common, especially in tombs. The Tau Ra, this is a way of representation. The idea of the cross is a Greek Tau, T, like a T. You can see here the formation of this T. We combine with a P, okay? A Greek Ra, P. It was widely used in ancient manuscripts such as P66, P45, or P75 from the year 200 AD to mean cross or wood beam. Okay, and the representation of the cross was not a cross like a Latin cross, but a cross like a tau, like a T. No, without this part that goes up. The other representation was the cross, stauros in Greek, pole or timber. It was represented by the letter T, Hebrew Tav letter. Clement of Alexandria in the early 3rd century calls it the sign of the Lord. The sign of the Lord. That means this sign. This one representation. There was also the sheer rod, that's a monogram formed by the first two letters of Christ in Greek. This is the name Christos in Greek. Okay? This is the name Christos, and the two first is an X and a P that you can see here, an X and a P in a cross. This is the face of Constantine, the emperor. The Constantine he put his face on the coin, and also the representation of what it was on the originally on the banners and shields that his army used to win all his battles. So he put it in his coin. This is the real cross, the supposedly cross that Constantine used. And Constantine commanded to put his icon on banners and shields. The Latin cross was never used. Latin cross is the one is like two lines together. It was never used, as you can see in the coin of emperor's face. The use of the Latin cross was only implemented since the 4th century, and the crucifix, the Latin cross with the image of Christ, there was only on the 6th century. So they were not in use in the first people that really believed in Yeshua. Most of them, they were really Jews that comprehend and understand that Yeshua was the Messiah, the promised Messiah of Israel. Which were the symbols of the Old Testament? The symbol that represents the Old Testament more than anything else is the Menorah. It represents the covenant made between Elohim, God, and the Jewish people, and the Torah, the commandments of Elohim that was given to them. Moses has the golden menorah made in the shape of an almond tree from 75 pounds of gold hammered by hand. That is in Exodus 25:31-40. It's interesting because these, the first ones and the ones that in the tabernacle, were almost the size of a man. The menorah is the symbol of the Jewish nation, used in the Israel coat of arms, and is also the symbol of the Knesset, the parliament. The union of the two symbols, menorah and the fish, form, as you can see here, this symbol. This is the seal of the Messianic seal. In Romans 11:16-18 gives the idea of these two signs. If the dough offered as a first fruits is holy, so the whole lump, and if the root is holy, the root is the Jewish traditions, the Jewish commandments, is holy, so are the branches, the ones that come out of Judaism, like the Messiah of Israel, Yeshua. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, through a wild olive shoot, were grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourished roots of the olive tree, do not be arrogant toward the branch. If you are, remember, it's not you who support the root, but the root that supports you. So people that are followers of Yeshua have to know that the root, that means Judaism, is the one that supports every idea of the Jewish Messiah, of Yeshua. And that's what he always said, especially in Matthew 5, that the law was never to be abolished until the end of times. The union of the two symbols also appears in Ephesians 2:11-22. Therefore, remember that before you, the Gentiles in the flesh, the so-called uncircumcised by the so-called circumcision made by hands in the flesh, at that time were without Messiah, God cut off from the citizenship of Israel, and strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope and without Elohim in the world. That was us. We were the Gentiles in the flesh. We were without the Messiah, God of the citizenship of Israel, strangers to the covenants of the promise, having no hope and without Elohim. Without Elohim in our world, without the Creator, the works of the Creator in our world. But now, in Yeshua the Messiah, you and I, who at one time were far away, were made close by the blood of Messiah. That is, you can find it in Psalm 65:3 or Zechariah 3:9. For he is our peace, which have both made one and broken down the intermediate wall of separation, that is, the enmity between us. There's no more. We are grafted, as you can see here in Romans 11:17. Also, these two ideas of the union of two symbols appears in Ephesians 2:11-22. To create him in himself of the two one new man. That's the idea. Making peace and to reconcile with God both in one body by means of the wood, killing it in the enemy. And he came and announced the good news of peace to you and me, who were far away, and peace to those who were near, for through him. Who were those who were near? The Jews. So we and the Jews are now one single person. We all have the right to enter the Father by the same Spirit. Thus, you are no longer foreigners. You and I are no longer foreigners or obstacles, but we are fellow citizens of the saints and members of the family of Elohim, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, the cornerstone being Messiah Yeshua himself, in whom well-locked every building grow to become a holy temple in Adonai, in which you and I, are together built up for the above of Elohim in the Spirit. This is the original Messianic seal, the one that were found by Schneider. Which was the seal of Elohim? There's something important, especially in Ezekiel 9:4 says, and Adonai said to him, it happens in the middle of the city, in the middle of Jerusalem, and points with a cross. That's a wrong translation. It really says Tav. A Hebrew letter in the Strong is 8-84-27. You can find it. You can use and you can find this idea. It doesn't say a cross, it says a Tav. A cross is two lines crossing each other. A Tav is one line and one on top of the other, as you can see here, as the seal of Elohim. It says, and point with a Tav the foreheads of men who groan and are distressed because of all the abominations that are made in the midst of it. So put a Tav in all those that follow the rules, that follow the commandments of Elohim, and have the idea and waiting for the Messiah of Israel. That comes in Revelation 9:4. That special seal of Elohim, it comes from Revelation 9:4. And they were told not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any trees, but only men who do not have the seal, who do not have the Tav of Elohim on their foreheads. You see, the seal of Elohim, that Tav is in the foreheads of every person who really loves Torah and tries to fulfill the commandments of Elohim and the faith in Yeshua, as it says in Revelation 14:12. You can find it very easy. As you can see here, the Lord of God and Messiah together. In Revelation 14:12 says, here is the perseverance of the kedoshim, the saints, those who keep the commandments of Elohim, Torah, and the faith of Yeshua, Messiah of Israel. So the Menorah represents the Torah, and Yeshua represents the Messiah of Israel. The two together in a single symbol. Also, at the end comes the Star of David. Yeah, you can see the two forms here. When they get together, they form the Star of David. The union of the three symbols forms the Star of David, or Magen David. It says in Numbers 24:17, I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of the Jacob, and a zephyr shall rise out of Israel. It shall crush the forehead of Moab, and break down all the sons of Shem. In Revelation 22:16 it says, I, Yeshua, have sent my angel to testify to you about these things for the churches. I am the root and the descendant of David, the bright morning star. That is David, and together the bright morning star. And in Matthew 2:2 says, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the heavens. The star that tell them about the Jewish king that was going to be born when it rose and have come to worship him. Yeshua said very clearly, and people have always this idea that he came for everybody. He came for those who follow Torah, who follow the commandments of Elohim, and know that the Messiah of Israel is coming. It says in Matthew 10:6, go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Remember, there was a time that Israel was divided in two. 10 tribes up in the house of Israel, and down in Judah there were 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin. The lost sheep of the house of Israel were lost because the Syrians came and took those people to Syria, and they sell them together. Many of them were part of the tribes in Europe, so we are descendants from them. Also in Matthew 15:24 he answered, I was sent only, it's important that letter, only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Not to everybody, but only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the descendants of those lost sheep of the house of Israel. So you have to come back to the Jewish root of our faith. You have to know that so you can have a better way of understanding the Bible, understanding Torah, the commandments of God, and how Yeshua fits in everything through being the Messiah of Israel that came and is coming at the end of times. Thank you. Please comment in our YouTube channel, and for all of you, Shalom.